Imagine a military unit deployed on the most dangerous missions imaginable. They fight, they bleed, and they die for their country. But when the dust settles, there are no medals, no homecoming parades. In fact, their own government decides they never existed at all. This is a phenomenon known as institutional amnesia. We like to think of official history as an objective record of facts, but it is often a highly curated collection of what a state actually wants the public to remember. Today, we are opening the sealed archives to investigate military units whose legacies were deliberately deleted, sanitized, or completely suppressed by the very governments that sent them into battle. If you want to uncover more classified secrets and forgotten history, make sure you subscribe to Global Warwatch Network right now. Erasing a battalion is rarely a clerical error. It is a calculated tool of statecraft used to bury uncomfortable truths. Look at this photo. These men were part of an experimental, highly autonomous reconnaissance platoon formed in 1965 by Colonel David Hackworth. They were known as Tiger Force, and in 1967, the U.S. Army sent them deep behind enemy lines in Vietnam. Operating with minimal supervision during the Song Ve Valley campaign, the unit's discipline completely collapsed. For 7 months, Tiger Force soldiers executed hundreds of unarmed civilians. They dropped grenades into bunkers hiding women and children, and they routinely tortured prisoners, severing ears and scalps as souvenirs. The Army's Criminal Investigation Command eventually substantiated these atrocities, but nobody faced a court-martial. Instead, military and government officials took the completed files, quietly buried them in the National Archives, and kept the entire operation a secret for nearly 3 decades until journalists exposed the story. This archival photo shows Japanese soldiers guarding the entrance to a compound in Manchuria. Inside was Unit 731, a top-secret biological and chemical warfare department led by General Shiro Ishii during World War II. Here, researchers subjected thousands of living human captives, mostly Chinese civilians and Allied prisoners, to extreme, lethal experiments, including vivisections without anesthesia and the field testing of the bubonic plague. But the leaders of Unit 731 never saw the inside of a courtroom. Between 1947 and 1949, U.S. military intelligence struck a secret deal. They granted Japanese scientists complete immunity from war crimes prosecution in exchange for their raw scientific data, autopsy reports, and slide collections, which were handed over to U.S. biological weapons researchers here at Camp Detrick. In both Vietnam and post-war Japan, democratic governments made the active choice to shield perpetrators and erase victims from public memory, all to secure a strategic, operational, or geopolitical advantage. Sometimes the mere existence of a unit is the problem. In 1803, the French government created the Battalion of Black Pioneers. This unit consisted of Cuban, Haitian, and Antillean soldiers, many of whom were former insurgents who had fought for abolition before being captured, deported to Europe, and pressed into serving the French Imperial Army. These men fought bravely across the continent, but they presented a massive ideological paradox. The French Empire was relying on the military prowess of black soldiers to defend Europe, while simultaneously reinstating colonial slavery and oppression in the Caribbean. To resolve this contradiction, the state erased them. While all other French regiments were presented with the highly coveted Imperial Eagle flag, the Black Pioneers were denied the honor and given a plain iron pike. Once their military utility faded, France gradually deleted the unit's contributions from official archives and military textbooks. Over a century later, a similar dynamic played out in Russia. In 1917, the Russian Provisional Government authorized the Women's Battalion of Death. As you can see in this photo, these women trained with rifles and marched in formation. They were intended for frontline combat, specifically authorized as a tool to publicly shame war-weary, mutinous male soldiers into returning to the trenches. They fought successfully during the Kerensky Offensive, breaching enemy lines under heavy fire. But after the Bolsheviks seized power, they immediately dissolved all female military units. For decades, Soviet historians actively censored the unit's history and excluded them from official military encyclopedias, because the women's alliance with the previous government challenged the Bolshevik narrative of a unified revolutionary movement. This is the mechanics of ideological erasure. When a unit's reality contradicts the regime's core narrative, the state simply writes them out of history entirely. Erasure doesn't always require a deliberate cover-up. During the Mexican-American War, the volunteer Mormon Battalion marched 2,000 miles to California. Because official military archives focused exclusively on enlisted men, the records completely neglected the women, children, and non-combatants who made the grueling march alongside the soldiers. Today, erasure has moved into the digital era. In early 2025, complying with a presidential executive order, the Pentagon launched a rapid campaign to purge military websites of content connected to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth mandated the removal of all articles, photos, and videos promoting identity-based programs. This resulted in a massive systemic deletion of minority histories from government platforms. The military algorithmically scrubbed historical profiles, cemetery records, and training curriculum honoring the pioneering Tuskegee Airmen, shown here, as well as the highly decorated 442nd Regimental Combat Team, a segregated Japanese-American unit from World War II. The automated nature of this purge swept up an astonishing range of content. The AI-powered review process deleted indigenous histories, including profiles of the Navajo code talkers seen operating here. The system even flagged the B-29 bomber Enola Gay simply because the algorithm misinterpreted the word gay as prohibited content rather than the pilot's mother's name. This kind of top-down deletion happens outside the military too. In February 2022, Texas A&M University President M. Catherine Banks unilaterally ordered the school's 129-year-old student newspaper, The Battalion, to immediately cease its physical print edition. The administration defended the shutdown as a necessary modernization effort. But the paper was financially healthy. Staff and advisors quickly realized the move was punitive, designed to suppress the publication after it ran several critical investigative pieces exposing campus scandals. The tools of erasure have evolved. Institutions no longer have to light physical archives and historical records on fire. They can algorithmically scrub a website or administratively dismantle a legacy with a single keystroke. The cost is immense. Erasure strips victims of justice, sanitizing the past for the powerful. But history fights back. Public outcry forces universities to back down, and backlash compels the Pentagon to restore marginalized veterans, proving memory survives if people defend it. Thank you for watching. If you want to help keep these stories alive, hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to Global Warwatch Network. Let us know down in the comments which of these classified files shocked you the most.